After 7 years, 7 Days to Die has finally relaunched on Xbox Series S and X and PlayStation 5 as a brand new game, and today I'm going to give you my first impressions after sinking 5 hours into the Xbox Series X edition. The good, the bad, and what happens now. Let's go. If you find this video useful, do leave a like, go and check out the rest of the guides that I'm doing with exclusively console gameplay for you, and yeah, 7 Days to Die, 7 years later, was it worth it? Let's find out. So I'm going to get into the drama and the costings and stuff, but let's start off with the good. This is absolutely a 10 times better game than the previous version, as you might expect, since that came out in 2016, based on a game that came out in 2012. There are some decent modern features that have made it into 7 Days to Die for console, particularly in terms of some of the options. You can completely custom remap all of the controls now. It supports keyboard and mouse on console as well, and of course in the future it will have things like crossplay, apparently once the update arrives at some point in Q4, the end of the year. With this crossplay update, that's when you'll be able to play with more than 4 players if you are able to host a server on your own PC or rent one via a service like Trado and then simply click the crossplay tab. That's how they're going to have it in the future. Some haven't seen 7 Days to Die over the years and don't really understand what kind of game it is. It is effectively a 4-player co-op survival game. Of course you can play solo, you can adjust the settings to make the game either easier or harder, and it has all the bells and whistles that you would expect, the same as PC, where you can customize and change a lot of stuff. What it doesn't currently have is completely brand new random procedurally generated maps. Again, that's going to be coming apparently at the end of the year. You've got the Nav G zone map, which is pretty much the basic one, and then they've got some pre-made ones that have been in the game a while, larger size ones. So you can have a map much larger or smaller, it all just depends on what you want. So this is great stuff and a lot of good things happening with it. Clearly though, on console, lots of people are still maybe disgruntled it doesn't have the split screen it used to have. Doesn't look to be added in the future either, they've announced no plans for it. I am in two minds about this. I do understand there is still this niche of people that like to play with family and friends couch co-op. But the old version, after visiting it recently and just checking out how poorly and badly the game actually is it really that much of a loss that you can't play with your friends anymore? Like, I get there's not many survival games maybe that you can play split screen, although there's quite a fair few. So yeah, I do understand people are going to be grumpy, but that is just a sign of modern times. So many games now are just not bothering with it. I've never bought into the idea that 7 Days to Die is some super advanced survival game. It is originally built in 2012. It is effectively Minecraft, but a more adult version. But yeah, that's the kind of basics of setting up your game and the differences between the versions. Now, everyone and their mum kept asking me in my stream, where is the 60 FPS locked frame rate? And again, I'm going to say it, I'm astounded that so many survival gamers really hold an importance with that, given there's so many survival games that just don't have that 60 FPS locked frame rate. Don't get me wrong, I think in the modern age most games should be targeting that and should be close to it, but when you think of the brand new Ark remaster that's been shown off by Digital Foundry as not even hitting 40 at times, and so many of the biggest, most popular survival games are nowhere near 60 FPS. But I guess times change. People want more quality in their games, but yeah, it's not hitting 60 FPS. It is pretty stable. There wasn't any screen tearing on the Series X. Obviously, I'm not too sure about the Series S. I kept saying it last night as well in the stream that there seems to be like a bit more of a weird kind of soft filter on the game. That's the best way of describing it. Like someone's put a slight bit of Vaseline on it. Everything's just slightly a bit more blurry, so the resolution isn't on par with PC. That might be what a lot of people expect, but it's just something to bear in mind. You can turn off motion blur, which is a great help. But there are no performance options. There are no ways to really adjust or change the look of the game. It has some sort of FPS setting where you can adjust, I think, for maybe streaming, but it didn't really seem to make the game look either better or worse adjusting it. So who knows, maybe they can improve on the FPS, but notoriously 7 Days to Die has always been an absolute beast of a game, with optimizations on PC somewhat lacking anyway. So the idea that console was going to be suddenly better or definitely up there is, yeah, a bit far-fetched. But yeah, no screen tearing is the biggest one for me. Huge vertical lines or jumps and stuff is something I really can't abide in. I can handle a lower resolution. There is a significant hitching though, like literally every other minute or so. The game just misses a beat, or it's like something's interrupting it, and that could become a real problem when you're fighting zombies and you miss that frame rate and it hitches. It's happened more and more, and as the game progressed and I got further and further into the game, it did start becoming more of an issue. In terms of rendering, it's a billion times better than the previous console version. No more trees just instantly popping up in front of you, although there are still some elements that could probably do some work. But I'm not going to lie or be grumpy for the sake of it, having been FunPimp's harshest critic over the years. It is a decent port so far in terms of the graphics and gameplay. I don't think it's that bad looking. I think it's actually pretty good compared to other games or remasters like Ark again. Maybe games like DayZ supposedly hit 60 FPS on an Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5, but it's certainly not a deal breaker for me so far. Now, when we start getting a bit more busy into the cities and you've got more zombies on screen, that might change. So yeah, I really do hope they get to the bottom of the hitching and that stops. But otherwise, I felt like it held up. I did have a mini raid at some point way before day 7. There must have been about 10 zombies here, also hitting around the outsides. And you can see it does struggle a little bit even with just this increase. But again, no screen tearing, and I felt like it was reasonably okay, although the hitching hit once more. Even on PC, when you've got a fat man spewing up bile on you, the game tends to really lock up, and I've got a pretty decent one. So it is what it is. This isn't a triple made game, it is made by a small studio, hence why they're so useless over the years at getting this port redone. But by and by, I gotta say, I was marginally impressed with most of the graphics and how it runs. So all the key features are definitely there. The game is about scavenging for survival, looting and base building. There have been some massive changes between these versions though, and on PC over the years with updates. No longer is it about just leveling up your axe cutting skills or getting XP for each individual action. Instead, killing zombies, maybe looting, placing blocks, stuff like that gives you general XP, which you can then put into your skill points and unlock new perks. A reliance now on finding magazines and skill books to unlock new items of gear or new tiers of weapons and tools is somewhat jarring at the beginning. It's encouraging you to go and basically loot all around the world a little bit more. Huge nerfs have happened with the trader that you won't no longer get the same kind of deals. He's basically more expensive now. And yeah, they really want you to be going out and exploring and looting more rather than just chopping down 10,000 trees to get your XP and unlocking new gear. Of course, new features have been added for the console version. You've now got 5 vehicles instead of just the mini bike. All brand new variants of zombies have been added. Tons of points of interest as well. And all new voice dialogue for the traders, which is kind of annoying. FunPimps are pretty proud that they've got some decent people doing maybe the voice lines for traders, but Traderette is just kind of annoying. He continuously tells you to take a hike or F off, and even after only 2 or 3 trips to see him, I was pretty sick of the dialogue that he was spewing because it was all the same. But it's a minor gripe. Something old console players hated was the sliding nature of movement. For some reason, whenever he was trying to turn the camera, it would just basically act really weird. That has been corrected and fixed now. It runs pretty much how you would expect it, and I would say it's actually a really decent job. There is aim assist if you want, and you can turn it on and off. I had it on as the default, and you know what, it helped out massively. I felt like the aiming also with guns was pretty decent. Certainly 10 times better than in other games like Ark or DayZ. It does feel like they have actually had someone play on console with a controller. So the general loops of scouring points of interest, trying to get enough loot, taking on missions from the traders is pretty much the main progression path now to get lots of XP and get more rewards, including their magazines, to unlock new items. I do worry it will become a bit more repetitive over time. The base building is still exactly what you would expect. Obviously, there are a lot more different types of blocks and stuff that you can use. And it has to be said, I probably didn't get into this as much as I probably could have, as I had taken over a base. But yeah, there's hundreds of new style shapes and stuff added to it. So for better or worse, it definitely feels janky at times. The game still feels like it's in a time loop from 2012. The UI and menus are still atrocious, although they have added the cursor back in the last couple of weeks, as that somehow was removed on PC using a controller when it first launched into 1.0, the beta branch at least. So that's a good thing. Without the cursor, honestly, navigating some of the menus using the LB and RB button was just painful. And the fact it's got keyboard and mouse now, yeah, it's a pretty good deal, if that's your preferred way to play. There are still plenty of shortcuts though to get through and take items or go ahead and craft. The challenge system replaces the quest system somewhat, but it's still relatively the same deal. Place some blocks, craft some new gear, go and loot, and you get some XP as rewards. And then when you hop over to the trader, he'll give you some choices out of some books, ammo, food, or whatever. Seen a lot of reports apparently that you can get a bicycle, one of the early game brand new vehicles, as a reward for completing 10 quests. Lies, they changed that recently. I didn't get it for sure. So you're going to have to grind a little bit more to get your vehicles. Vehicles are much more simplified now. I have shown this off using the PC, but I'm not going to show it off here in this gameplay because it is Xbox Series X gameplay only. But everything has been simplified. You can basically just need a few items now for your vehicles. Likewise for your armor, there's now only 4 armor slots. Any benefits that you got from all the previous armor pieces now come in the form of mods. They've literally been moved over to different types of mods that you can put into your armors. There are 16 different new armor types to go and get, giving you perks and buffs when you wear the full set, and some of them have individual perks and buffs, and that's something I'm going to get into. Obviously I weren't at that stage yet, as you do need to find 11 of Armored Up, a special magazine, to go ahead and unlock light, medium and heavy armors. But the idea is it's meant to lock you into a bit more of a play style for a while at least, until you buy an elixir and reset all your skill points. Anyway, I figure I'll mention that because, yeah, it's pretty important, I guess, to some people how progression works. And that is it. Explore, find more difficult areas, places of interest, try and loot them and survive. Get back to base and build up your defences for day 7 or night 7 when you're going to get raided and it all comes tumbling down. As a concept, 7 Days to Die has always been a great idea. It's just never been executed very well or within a decent time rate. The drama and saga of what happened with the console versions having taken this long to get up to speed to pretty much be the same as PC has absolutely taken too long. But at its core, 7 Days to Die is still one of the best survival experiences you can play for that true taste of apocalyptic action, and yeah, I think it still is the grown-up older brother of Minecraft. The devs have got plans for the next year and a half of how they're going to be adding and implementing new stuff. And I am going to go on a bit of a rant and whinge now about the pricing and this. Fact is, even on PlayStation at the moment, it's labelled beta, supposedly from what I've heard. They're doing this so they can update the game quicker. That's an absolute another lie and bullshit. I've covered so many survival games that have arrived on consoles. I've never heard of any other survival game putting their game into beta so they can update it. PlayStation might have added or changed some stuff, but I also know a couple other games that are coming out soon and they haven't had the same issues. Equally, just before the game came out on Xbox, there were some signs that it was going to be going into game preview. It had that kind of bannering on it, but maybe it was just the art, who knows. There is a complete experience here. I don't think many players are going to be left wanting in terms of playing the game and enjoying for what it does have. But I'm still baffled how they can label it 1.0 when they've got so many key features not in the game yet. Crossplay is a big undertaking. So many games have added that afterwards, or it's just not been a big consideration, sometimes not even adding multiplayer for ages after. So that kind of stuff I can leave. But they are planning some big UI changes in the future as well. They're going to be adding more functionality to your wardrobes and the look of your characters, and they are going to be adding cosmetic DLC in the future too. Not to mention a brand new weather system, trader overhaul, and a story mode. It's like, where is all that stuff for 1.0? What, you spent 12 years making this game and you still can't get some of the key stuff in it for when it's meant to release? Clearly Fun Pimps were starting to run out of money due to maybe some mismanagement, who knows, but they pretty much have struggled, and that's why they've just bundled this together, labelled it 1.0 when it's clearly not. Yes, it runs relatively well. Yes, it has got the experience that you would expect from PC. Is it worth a $45 purchase? If you bought the original game and you're desperate to play the new version, you're going to buy it anyway, no matter what. If you're somewhat new to the survival genre, and particularly this series, as good as it can be in the survival loops and the way that you play, I still think probably it's worth waiting for a small sale, or inevitably when it goes on Game Pass. I don't know, maybe I'm stuck in a time loop. So many games now are launching with these kinds of prices, like Ark and Conan Exiles when they first came out with early access. It will give you hundreds of hours if you're a real player that enjoys this type of game or have played it in the past. But given the huge amount of time it's taken to get the game into 1.0, given all the issues that console have had, I just feel like the devs could have been a little bit more kinder in giving players maybe a bit more of a discount, or just making the game a little bit cheaper overall to encourage even more. That said, apparently it's got over 1,000 reviews already within the first hour of it going live on PlayStation 5. Labelling it 4.9 stars. That's what the devs were crying out about on Twitter. So I guess people really don't care. They just want that survival experience. They want that 7 days vibe playing on their next gen consoles. So I've been their biggest critic over the years about the treatment of console. Yes, they got screwed over by Telltale going under, but let's get it right. They are the ones that chose to sell their rights to console to Telltale, deeming that console wasn't their bag. They weren't console developers. And in future, if people wanted to play 7 Days to Die, they should get a PC. That's exactly the verbiage they used during a live stream to someone asking about it at the time, or just a little while after Telltale went under and they'd got their rights back. Fun Pimps have had a bit of a disdain for console players for years, and pretty much the idea that they would ever make it an actual console game again. As soon as they got their rights back in 2019, which they did not have to buy back, the rights simply reverted back to them. They immediately said their plans would be to release it as a new game. They never even looked at trying to get an update for free to players. But in the next 6 months, they must have started getting all the sales data and realised that actually console was probably making them more money than PC. So at least since 2019, they've been earning all the money they can from consoles, which has carried on selling millions of copies. They went and even re-released the game on disc and digital under their own publishing name in 2021, full well knowing that that game would become obsolete, and it's now been delisted. They've offered a 25% discount for players that own the game from the Xbox One or PlayStation 4, but only digitally. There's nothing that can be done if you own it physically. And I do think it's pretty poor. I do think more should have been done. I think absolutely it should have been a free upgrade, or at the very least a 50% discount. They blame Sony and Microsoft for not allowing them to. Let's get it right. Lots of other games apparently can do discounts up to 30%. So they didn't even go to the max of what Sony and Microsoft allow, really. And the bottom line, they could have sold the game just a bit cheaper. They could have sold it for $30, $35. It still would have sold even more bangers. And don't forget, they're going to be introducing MTX in the future. I've got a lot of respect for small teams, game developers like Irongate making Valheim, or people behind Core Keeper, or even Grounded. Even though Obsidian's larger, the team that made that game was only about 17 people deep. They have given really good, complete, whole experiences in relatively shorter time, and they haven't messed people around. I have absolutely no respect for what the Fun Pimp's done. They have a great idea for the game, but they spent 12 years getting it into the state it is now, and it's cost us another bunch of money to pay and support their ineptitude. And I battle that every time I go load up or start making a video. I like the game, I love the game, I think it's a great idea and great concept, but I can't stand the way it's been developed. The discounts for that 25% off are only going to last 30 days on PlayStation. So if you're hard up on money right now this month, well, you better get along quick, because you've only got 30 days to take advantage of it. Some players would absolutely say this game is totally worth 60, 70 bucks, a AAA premium price. I'm not too sure about that. But it is what it is. I've given you the info. It's up to you to decide whether or not you're going to rebuy the game or buy it for the first time. I've covered this game since its inception on console, at least, all the drama and issues it's had trying to get to this point. So I'm just glad it's kind of resolved now, for good or bad. I want you guys to tell me what you're feeling so far after having played it or seen it and debating whether or not to pick it up. Is the gameplay good in your opinion? Have you made it to a city? What is the FPS like? Let me know your thoughts, and I'll be back for more guides and gameplay, because at its heart, 7 Days to Die is a great game. It just needs better development and hopefully continued support. Until next time, ratbags, I will see you later.